Heard a lot about the murder of JonBenét Ramsey. And with the 20th anniversary of Colorado's most infamous unsolved killing, we've seen a deluge of television specials and investigations. But 9 Wants to Know decided to focus on the one piece of evidence heralded as key to solving this crime. DNA that's been in the FBI's national database since 2003. DNA that Boulder's former district attorney is certain belongs to the killer. But now a 9 News Boulder Daily Camera investigation found it's evidence that may be worthless in terms of solving this case, putting that DNA in doubt. It's a murder with 2 competing theories. JonBenét Ramsey was either killed on Christmas night 1996 by someone in her family, or she was killed by an intruder. For more than a decade, those theories played out in the tabloids, on talk radio, even inside the investigation. Then on July 9, 2008,
attorney says new DNA evidence in the murder of JonBenét Ramsey.
Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacy fully embraced the intruder theory.
Clears her family of any involvement in her death.
That just baffled my mind.
Shocking fellow prosecutors.
I wouldn't have done it because I don't think that's the role of the district attorney.
Her successor.
I was stunned. I was also appalled.
And even the Colorado governor, who assembled a task force to look into the case.
I couldn't see any reason based on what she said for her to do so. Had never seen anything like that in the past from any other prosecutor, and just couldn't believe she chose to do that.
Lacy's decision was based on DNA she said was conclusive. DNA she said JonBenét's killer left behind on her panties and long johns. DNA that would crack the case if it could just be identified or matched. But the actual DNA test results Mary Lacy used to clear the Ramseys, obtained exclusively by 9 News and the Boulder Daily Camera, tell a very different story.
So I was always surprised at what she did, and now I'm deeply concerned.
It's the latest controversy in a case full of problems. A bungled crime scene, infighting among investigators and prosecutors.
First of all, many of you know that last week,
a decision by former District Attorney Alex Hunter to drop charges authorized by a grand jury against John and Patsy Ramsey. Mary Lacy succeeded Hunter in 2001 with a reputation as a strong supporter of the intruder theory. When she issued her exoneration letter and apologized to the Ramseys, she created the impression that if someone could just identify the person whose DNA profile had been found, the case would be solved.
We now have pretty irrefutable DNA evidence according to the DA's office, and that's the most significant thing to me, and certainly we are grateful that they acknowledged that we, based on that, certainly could not have been involved.
So we had D8, D21.
9 Wants to Know and the Daily Camera took those same lab results to forensic experts.
Yeah.
The first time that data had ever been independently evaluated. And those experts agreed. The DNA results don't come close to proving that an intruder killed JonBenét.
It's certainly possible that an intruder was responsible for the murder, but I don't think that the DNA evidence proves it.
The only way I can describe this evidence is uninformative. It really is, it's not dispositive of the presence of a perpetrator. There is foreign DNA, but that foreign DNA can easily be accounted for by a number of innocent mechanisms.
Male DNA was originally identified in JonBenét's underwear during testing in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Lacy ordered new tests in 2007 and 2008 on JonBenét's long johns and nightgown. It's those tests that led Lacy to exonerate the Ramseys.
I can tell you in my experience,
a decision that confounded Troy Ide, a former U.S. attorney who was on the Ramsey task force appointed by Governor Owens.
There's a real danger whenever you say, okay, we've looked at this and we've categorically determined something.
The experts who reviewed the DNA test data for 9 News and the Daily Camera questioned Lacy's exoneration on multiple fronts. First, the DNA profile Lacy said belonged to the killer may not be the profile of a single person.
There is a reasonable chance that what has been attributed to a single individual actually represents DNA from multiple individuals that has been sort of hobbled together into a single profile.
Well, it's a rather obvious point, but I mean, if you're looking for somebody who doesn't exist because it's actually several people, it's a problem.
And as for the DNA on the Long Johns, heralded by Lacey as conclusive, our experts believe those two spots are mixtures of genetic material from more than two people.
It looks and appears to me to be at least 3 individuals. And so that there's a mixture here that's not just a single profile.
Which is precisely what Mary Lacey knew before she exonerated the Ramseys. This report, obtained by 9 News and the Daily Camera, went to Lacey's office 3 months before she cleared the family. Of the 2 spots on JonBenet's Long Johns, the report says it's likely more than 2 people contributed to the mixtures. And after eliminating JonBenet's DNA, the remaining DNA contribution should not be considered a single source profile.
She knew, based on your investigation, that this DNA wasn't necessarily from one person, and that it in fact was potentially accumulated DNA. She knew it at the time, and why she used this evidence to clear the Ramsey family then, a clearance that has continued because it's on the public record through today, is something I can't explain, and she should explain.
Mary Lacey never responded to our questions about her decision to exonerate the Ramseys. She left office in 2009, and she didn't respond to our calls, our emails, our letters, or our visits to her Boulder home. And if you think it looks like she set out to prove the intruder theory, you are not alone. Independent experts who reviewed the case told 9 Wants to Know and the Boulder Daily Camera they think Lacey succumbed to a phenomenon well known in human psychology. Understanding the DNA evidence in the murder of JonBenet Ramsey means understanding this. Everywhere we go, we leave little bits of ourselves.
Really talking for 15 to 30 seconds is enough to detect a DNA profile on the desk in front of you.
That reality challenges one of the central tenets of the DNA evidence in the JonBenet Ramsey case. One made public when former Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacey exonerated the Ramsey family in 2008, saying that there's no innocent explanation for genetic material found in the girls' underwear and long johns.
My guess is that if we took your shirt and did some DNA testing on it at the level of sensitivity involved in this case, we'd find your DNA, we'd probably find some other people's DNA on there as well.
Lacey's exoneration letter said she had concluded that foreign DNA on JonBenet's clothing could not have gotten there inadvertently. Something our experts say is just not true. They say there are plenty of reasons the DNA on JonBenet's clothing could be innocent. Reasons that have nothing to do with murder.
You shed 40,000 cells per hour. You are leaving your DNA everywhere. When wherever you go physically, you're leaving a small part of yourself.
Mary Lacey discounted that possibility when she issued her letter exonerating the Ramseys and concluding the DNA must be the killers.
I thought that was a bit of a leap to claim that there couldn't be an innocent explanation for what was found.
How did Lacey's conclusion differ so much from the actual DNA tests? Lacey was long known to support the theory that an intruder, not a family member, killed JonBenet. Something our experts believe could have led her to succumb to what's known as confirmation bias.
In human psychology, we like to see patterns. We like to see puzzle pieces fitted together.
Confirmation bias can affect how an investigator with a theory interprets evidence.
You tend to believe data, which confirms your hypothesis. You tend to think of explanations to refute data, which do not support your hypothesis.
Case in point, these never-before-seen emails. They show that after preliminary tests found the presence of unknown male DNA on JonBenet's long johns, an investigator in Lacey's office replied that his bosses didn't see the need for additional testing.
It sounds like they got a result that they were looking for and decided to quit while they were ahead.
The lab that Lacey used later provided her with reports showing that the unknown DNA on the long johns was likely part of a mixture of genetic material from more than 2 people, but that was never before made public until now. She issued her exoneration in spite of the confusing DNA results, an exoneration the family still points to as proof they were not involved. Just last month, Ramsey lawyer Lynn Wood used the exoneration to challenge news reports suggesting it could be a family member who killed JonBenet. In a tweet, Wood said, in 2008, Boulder DA publicly exonerated them and apologized. DNA evidence conclusive. End of story. And in another tweet, he said, this is a DNA case, plain and simple.
No, it is not. It's clearly not. We have a question profile that is very low level in terms of the amount of DNA. The quantity of DNA is very small. The profile is extremely complex. The one thing this case is not, it is not a DNA case, pure and simple.
The problem with the Ramsey case is not that we don't have enough opinions.
Current DA Stan Garnett stopped short of calling for new testing of the DNA when we showed him what we found. But our experts say if he did, scientists could isolate out male genetic material and make it easier to determine exactly what the DNA might mean in this case.
I'm not going to say what we're going to do. What I will tell you and will assure the public is any reasonable effort that can be done to evaluate the evidence and evaluate whether charges can be filed is being done by my office with the Boulder Police and will be in the future.
Based on our findings, Boulder authorities started talking about what to do. And 9 News and the Daily Camera learned Boulder police and prosecutors met and decided it's time for a new round of DNA testing.
What we're focusing on is solving the case and proving the case. As you know, it's been 20 years and that's not happened.
It's Boulder County District Attorney Stan Garnett's job to file charges against whoever killed that 6-year-old girl in December 1996, if and when the evidence supports it. And now his office is working with Boulder Police to plan a new round of DNA tests.
Certainly the Ramsey case, there's a whole lot more to that case than DNA. DNA is a part of it. We got to make sure that it's tested appropriately through up-to-date modern methods. And we will make sure that happens.
The move comes after a joint 9 News Daily Camera investigation found all kinds of problems with the DNA testing of JonBenét's underwear and long johns. Former DA Mary Lacy cleared the girl's family of suspicion based on that testing. But our investigation showed that male DNA on the girl's clothes may have been left innocently, may not belong to the killer, and may not even be from a single person. Our story led to a meeting in recent weeks among prosecutors, police, and Colorado Bureau of Investigation agents. They discussed new technology and new testing. Garnett would not guess on a timeline.
It's been 20 years of an ongoing investigation, so I understand the curiosity that people have. CBI is efficient, they're careful, they're deliberate, and I'm sure they'll move forward with an appropriate amount of speed.
We don't know what kind of testing they're going to do, but our experts have an idea. Submit JonBenét's undergarments to testing that focuses only on male DNA. That way scientists could determine if that genetic mixture contains DNA from more than one man. And knowing that would tell investigators whether that profile that's been in the FBI's database since 2003 really is the killer's. For 9 Wants to Know and the Boulder Daily Camera, I'm Kevin Vaughn.